Greetings, I'm Demonac, and it's arena time.
So I had some audio problems with this one. Obviously, as you can tell, I have to re-record over top of it for the commentary, which is really annoying, but there we go. I'm choosing a Shaman because I really haven't done Shaman yet in arena. Certainly not in a video, and I haven't played it much at all. So, see how we go through. First rare, I've got Defender of Argus, who is super good. All the constructed decks use like 2 of him. Ancestral Spirit is also pretty good. Resurrecting a minion can do a lot of cool things. But Lightning Storm is mass removal, and there are only so many mass removal cards you're going to get, and it's a pretty darn good one. Ventricle Mercenary is pretty good. Ironfur Grizzly is not my favorite. Silverhand Knight, though, he produces 6 power and 6 toughness for 5. That's pretty good, and if you have things that take advantage of multiple creatures, that works too. The Tiger is nice and fat, but the Flesh-Eating Ghoul is very strong in a middle sort of slot. It often comes out as a 4/3 for 3. Here I've got 2 not very interesting creatures, and 1 card that can get rid of the fattest, ugliest thing you ever saw. So obviously I took the Hex. Fire Elemental is amazing. Ancestral Healing doesn't seem that exciting. Gives something taunt, but it's not as good as having another whole minion with taunt, as far as I'm concerned. Silverhand Knight is pretty good, but the Fire Elemental is amazing. It's good size, does lots of damage, it's tough, and it kills things. This was a tough choice, although weapons are probably not a factor for Shaman. They don't have very many, which means there's not much chance of having them in the arena. Frostwolf Warlord is pretty good. I don't like him as much as he deserves, really, because he's usually going to be a 5/5. If you have just one other minion, he's a 5/5 for 5. If you have 2 more, or like 1 minion in a totem, that's 6/6 for 5, and that's very good. But I wanted the Novice Engineer so it'd have a little bit of early game in evidence, and also she replaces herself later in the game. Windspeaker is pretty awesome. Like, he's a decent size for the cost, and the way that he's giving a unit Wind Fury is much better than most other ways, because you're getting a good creature, and you're getting Wind Fury, which you can immediately put on a big thing that is ready to attack already. Forked Lightning, that's what I'm looking for. I mean, those are all good early plays, but Forked Lightning deals 2 damage to 2 enemies. The Overload does kind of screw you, it's expensive, but that's a lot of killing for 1 card, especially early in the game. The Imani Berserker is something I haven't paid enough attention to previously. He's actually very good. 2/3 for 2 is a good set of stats, and the higher toughness means that he can usually get that in Rage off, or at least it's something that your opponent's going to have to work around. Hey, there's a bonus rare, I think. That's an extra rare. The Cobra is very good. I got screwed in the previous run by an enemy Cobra. Like, it can kill anything, and that makes it kind of scary. But yeah, another Lightning Storm. That's AoE removal. That's amazing. So, I mean, none of these cards are too spectacular. I have to think a lot about the Wind Fury, but it's kind of interesting because, again, it's giving something Wind Fury. I don't like it anywhere near as much as the other guy, because the other guy, I'm also getting a decent-sized creature for the same card. But this enhancement still lets me put Wind Fury on something and attack with it right away. So, in terms of finishing an opponent, that doubles a creature's damage for 2 mana, which is very good, assuming that your creature was going to get through to them anyway. The Unbound Elemental is pretty interesting, and the obvious comparison is to the Questing Hero Idiot, who is a 2/2 for 3, but any card you play gives him +1/+1. On the other hand, the Unbound Elemental being a 2/4 for the same price, he's much more survivable, much more robust, but only a few cards are going to boost him. Like, I already have a bunch of overload cards, but it still takes a little bit of luck to get him even 1 +1/+1. If he does get +1/+1, he becomes 3/5 for 3, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, it's a little iffy. The Elven Archer could kill something. The Frostwolf Warlord is fat, and I do like my fat. I just don't want to fill up my deck with a bunch of low, like, 1-cost plays, so as tempting as the Elemental is, I go for the fatter one. Now here we've got the Argent Commander of Amazing. There's also Lava Burst. That's a lot of damage for not... There's not much mana up front. The total cost is getting kind of expensive, but it's still 5 damage. It could be removal or killing a player. And Ravenhold Assassin is a very large creature that is generally going to survive long enough to attack. That's pretty scary. I mean, I could Wind Fury him or something. It's still, you're comparing him to that Golem that's 7/7 for 7. And I don't know, an extra 2 toughness at that point is pretty nice. But Argent Commander is the one. He acts as removal when he comes in. And he's doing 4 mana immediately when he comes into play. Whereas the Lava Burst is only doing 1 more. And it still costs 5 mana over 2 turns. The Commander is pretty awesome. Oh, these are all good cards. Another Forked Lightning. At that point I have a ton of removal. The Durobashi Berserker is pretty hard to deal with in Limited. I mean, he's very tough. He's decent size for his cost already, and then his attack goes up so dramatically if he takes any damage. Now, as a Shaman, I can't just trigger that the way a Mage can. It's not as easy. And the other card was a valid choice too, but Forked Lightning, it's just, this is a limited format. Removal is kind of king. It's removal and fat. That's what I want. Now, here it is not going to be removal or fat. I do need to sort of pad the middle of the deck. And it's hard to say because the Fairy Dragon is, like, you just look at the numbers. It's a lot more efficient than the Raid Leader. And it's kind of more protected. But the Raid Leader has a chance to do more, like with my totems and stuff. Just the fact that I might have totems out and then boom, suddenly he makes them able to attack is pretty nice. Plus the Silverhand Knight. I don't know. I didn't have a lot of 3-cost stuff. So these are all pretty good smashy creatures. I mean, the Yeti is very efficient. And then for 1 more, you get +1 attack and stealth. And then the other one could freeze something when it came into play. It was a little less cost efficient. But yeah, the Yeti was good. I don't have a lot of like 4-cost stuff yet. Flame Tongue Totem is good. The Cult Master is good if you play it at the right time, but he's not my favorite card. I'd much rather have Pain Acolyte. That was a tough set of cards to choose from too, but I'm going kind of fast. Having 2 Fire Elementals is pretty strong. I could get another Wind Speaker, who would be very good for the reasons I gave before. The Warden is also a good taunt creature. I don't necessarily have that much taunt, although I did take the Lord of the Arena. But Spellbreaker is so good, it's really hard not to take him. I mean, the 1/7 taunt, he's damaging everything it hits him, at least a little. And it takes a lot of hits to bring him down. Like an army of weenies can almost get stopped by him. But yeah, Spellbreaker is hard to top. Defender of Argus, again, he's amazing. And like he's what all the constructed decks use. He's giving 2 creatures a size bonus. He's a decent size himself, and he's creating 2 taunts for the price of 1 card. That you don't see very often. The Pint-Sized Summoner was pretty tempting too. Like really tempting, but I went for the Argus. And here's another set, like obviously I don't care about the Raider, but the Shieldmaster, very good. Very solid, giving more defense, and he still does good damage for a 4-cost creature, but Bloodlust makes you win. Bloodlust is one of those cards where you win the game, especially if you can sneak out a couple of totems, right? Sometimes people ignore them because it's like, oh, it's a 0/2, it's healing your guys, who cares? But then Bloodlust makes them all able to attack for 3, plus all your actual creatures are getting +3. You can blow through taunt defenses so quickly, and if your opponent has no defenses, 3 damage per creature. If you have 4 creatures, you just did 12 damage. That is a sick amount. So it's very hard to turn down Bloodlust. The Engineer is good for cards. The Harvest Golem is very solid with his mid-gamey solidness. It's pretty hard not to take a Lord of the Arena, though. I mean, he's fat, and late in the game, because he has taunt, like, not only can he kill things, but late in the game, you can drop him down, and he can save you that 1 turn you need. Here's another tough set. Stormwind Knight is not my favorite. He is kind of good because he can come in and attack right away, and, you know, that's like removal, but after he hits something, he usually is a pretty small creature and is not very good anymore. the Bluegill Warrior does just as much damage, and he always dies, but the thing is, Bluegill, you can cast him along with a Raid Leader. You can cast him along with a Bloodlust in the same turn. It's not that hard because he's so cheap, and that makes him pretty scary. Fairy Dragon is also, again, it's reasonably defended. It's got good stats for its cost, but I don't know. I find the Bluegill is giving me more flexibility, and especially in a limited format. He's more removal, and removal is removal, 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 removal. So yeah, I'm taking the Bluegill. There's another Forked Lightning. Holy crap, that's a lot of Forked Lightning. That's so much damage dealing. The Raid Leader would be nice too. The Deckhand, I ignore pretty much all the pirates that come up because I know I'm not going to have any weapons, and they're all not very efficient without weapons. Another rare, and holy, it's another like Defender of Argus, who's amazing. I mean, the Swordsmith is good too, but Defender of Argus, he's generating 5/5 worth of stats for 4 mana, as long as you have 2 guys to partner him up with, and 2 taunts. Earthshock is a tough call. I was just starting to think that, like, I have a ton of spells in this deck. I really need to focus on creatures. So as much as I like Earthshock, it's flexible, it can kill things, it's cheap, and the silence can also neutralize a major threat. But I really need to make sure I have a solid core of creatures, like, in the deck, and especially at different levels of casting cost. The Dragonling mechanic is comparable to the Yeti. I mean, she creates just as much stats, although it's split up, which is advantages and disadvantages. But I went with that Golem again. That Golem's ability to survive the apocalypse is awesome. And here we go, Berserker again. I'm very tempted to take him this time, but I love Dark Iron Dwarf, and I ignore the Pirate, because the Pirate cares about weapons. And then, as I'm trying to get more creatures, here are all these spells. Frostshock I don't like quite as much as the Silence one, although it's sort of tempting. Like, stopping something from attacking is actually very strong. Another Bloodlust. The problem is I want more creatures so that my Bloodlust will be more effective. But if I take more Bloodlust, I'll have less creatures, but I'll have more Bloodlust, and Bloodlust is good. So the War Golem, too, is pretty solid, but I'm starting to worry about my deck's slowness. It seems like my deck's going to be more mid-game based, especially since I have all this overload. The cards don't maybe look that expensive, but a lot of the time I'm going to be down 1 or 2 mana from casting one of my many Forked Lightnings and Lightning Storms the turn before. So, I mean, the War Golem is very tempting because it's, again, more meat to throw down on the table, but Bloodlust works on totems and everything else. So I'm going to try that. Dust Devil is kind of strong against certain opponents, but I mean, it's garbage against a maze. It's thwarted by a taunt creature if you can't kill the taunt with something else. Lightning Bolt, I would have taken Lightning Bolts early on in the draft, but I know how much direct damage I have. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper than Forked Lightning, but Forked Lightning is doing 2 damage to 2 creatures. If I have a spell damage totem out, if I get lucky, it's even more, like doubled. The Cult Master, the Cult Master is not my favorite, but I often end up taking him because if you play him in the right circumstances, he will draw a card to replace himself. And that's still 4 attack that you're putting out on the table. Okay, and last card, we've got a crappy Pirate, which I don't care about. We've got the Questing Adventurer Idiot, who, I mean, he's tempting, but you look at my deck. The chances that I'd be able to cast him and cast 2 other useful cards in the same turn are very slim. The only way I'd be able to put him out as a 4/4 immediately is if I had the coin still in my hand from going second. Whereas the Ancient Mage gets interesting because as long as I have 2 other things out, he actually adds +2 spell damage while still being a reasonably tough 4-cost creature, and that 2 spell damage plus my AoE direct damage spells would be a lot. So that is a deck. I didn't count them, even though this is the second time around. I think I ended up with about 6 rares, maybe. No legendaries, but that's a lot of rares, and I have 2 Defenders of Argus, which is kind of sick. It's starting to look almost constructed at that point. 2 Defenders of Argus, 2 Lightning Storms. Looks less constructive than I have 3 Forked Lightnings, but I got 3 of those. I just so much removal. Got the bluegill charge guy as removal. Oh yeah. So I'm pretty happy. Now the mage is not my favorite opponent to run into because she can take out a lot of my weak stuff. It's very tempting to keep the Defender of Argus in my hand, but he's more effective with other creatures. I gotta make sure I get some creatures I can cast. And wow, is that not the hand I wanted. Yeah, not good. Oh, and my fourth card, really bad. This is why it's really bad that the player goes second gets to mulligan more cards in addition to just, having more cards and the coin. So, not much I can do here other than drop me a totem. And it's a spell power totem, so that's potentially interesting. That means I could use my Fork Lightning to kill something with 3 hit points. Sounds pretty good to me. Sorcerer's Apprentice. She makes the spells cheaper, and she's a 3/2. That looks like something worth blowing up. And here's where I find out that Fork Lightning isn't highlighted. What? No, really. What? No, seriously? There have to be 2 enemy targets to cast Fork Lightning. Now, I am suddenly really a lot less happy about having 3 of them in my deck. I thought that was a major coup, where now I'm going to kick everyone's ass because I have all this cheap, super efficient removal. Like, no. If the Fork Lightning can only hit if the opponent has 2 or more creatures, that makes it a much less amazing card. It's actually still pretty good, but it seemed undercosted before. It seemed like it's amazing despite the very painful Overload 2. But now that I know how it works, I'm like, I don't think I would have taken the third one. Would have taken something else, probably. I could play a Dark Iron Dwarf now, and he's nice and fat, except that my opponent has 4 toughness with the creatures, so he wouldn't even have to break a sweat to kill him. Plus, I'd be wasting my battle cry. Another possibility is that I just Fork Lightning them and then get a totem, which is pretty hard to argue with since Fork Lightning will automatically kill both of them. It'd be dumb to Lightning Storm. Now, that locking up 2 of my mana for the next turn is bad based on my hand. Like, I don't have good 3-cost plays. On the plus side, I got lucky and got the Stoneclaw totem, which there are very few circumstances where I would not be happy for that to be the totem that I get. Like, if the ability was get a Stoneclaw totem every time instead of being random, then I think the Shaman would be a lot more powerful. You can almost say that, you can say that for almost any of its totems, though. Like, the fact that it's random is the thing that makes it weaker, because the individual totems they're all stronger than, or as good as, or better than the 1/1 the Paladin gets, except that they're all a little bit more circumstantial, whereas the 1/1 is always a 1/1 that you could buff, and he's good and everything. So I had no good plays for that turn with my 2 mana locked out. Next turn, no. Next turn I'll have tons of mana. I have a Spell Power totem out, so that's potentially interesting. It means if my opponent drops several things, I could blow them up. And now she has a secret, and I have to figure out if she's going to Mirror Entity whatever I play. That makes me gravitate towards the Silverhand Knight, because Mirror Entity will copy whatever you play, but it doesn't get the Battle Cry ability. So if that was the case, we would both have a 4/4, but I would also have a 2/2. No, it's not Mirror Entity. So now I'm trying to figure out, well, obviously I'm going to have to attack with the Squire first if it survives, to check if it's a Vaporize. What I'm hoping is that her secret is just just the Ice Armor. The Ice Armor is not my favorite secret. In fact, it's one that I would pretty much never play with unless I had other good secrets and I was just worried about protecting them, but even that seems like a pretty dubious reason. So killing the Fen Creeper is interesting. I mean, I can easily kill it, but what way is best? I have about 7 different things I could do in my hand. I could hex it and then kill it with my small guy. I could attack it with both my guys and kill it, although I'd only have 1 toughness left on my 4/4, who would easily die. I could Lightning Storm to soften it up and then kill it with the 4/4. But even if I got the full 3 damage, well, I guess then it would be 4 damage. Then I could kill it with the 2/2. But that's pretty random, and I don't really want to Lightning Storm one guy, especially when it'd be overloading 2 of my mana for next turn. I could play the Defender of Argus, and then I'd have a 5/5 and a 3/3. It would still take 2 of them attacking to get rid of the Fen Creeper, though. I do need to kill him. So I end up going with Dark Iron, give him the +2, because he will survive, even though he's just going to get killed by something. And then I attack with that to find out if it was a Vaporize, and no, it's just an Ice Barrier. And now it turns out, in hindsight, knowing that I was going to attack with a little crap guy, she's actually better off with the Ice Armor than the Vaporize, so shows you what I know. Blizzard was not a good thing to have happen to me. My Dark Iron is still alive, but he can't even attack next turn, which is frozen. So now I've got the full 8 mana to spend, but what am I going to do with it? If I play an Argus guy first, then he's not going to have anything. He's only going to be buffing one side, and that's not very good. I can play the Harvest Golem and an Argus guy. I could just try and throw out the Fire Golem, do 3 damage to her shields, and still not be able to cast a second thing. This seems like the best play. Drop the Harvest Golem, and then the Argus guy can get maximum use out of his abilities. And I know that if I get Flame Strikes, the Golem will at least leave something for me on the field. So what's she going to do? She's going to play that guy I turned down, 1/7 Taunt. He is pretty tough. It's going to take a fair amount to get through there, but I have a lot of stuff in play, and she only has 2 mana left to mess me up with. Okay. There's another Forked Lightning. Wow, it would be nice if I could cast a Forked Lightning on a single creature. I've got 2 of them in my hand now. It's going to be hard to use them. So what could I do? I could Wind Fury something, which would get to attack twice, but I'd be very concerned about the survival of my guys at this point. The Fire Elemental could come in, do 3 damage, and then still not be enough. So I decided to actually just Hex him. It's annoying that he still has the Taunt, which is why I'm blowing him up. But it does get rid of that 6 toughness worth of creature, and it lets me do more damage through to her. Plus, if she Flame Strikes, she would still have to use her hero ability in order to kill my Elemental there. Like, this is quite an army. I would still have the 2/1 left, no matter what she does, almost. Like from the Death Rattle. So, yes. Now, what is she going to do? I'm a little bit lower in life, but I have about the same number of cards and a lot of guys in play. She's going to copy my 5/3 Taunt with her Mimic. That's pretty interesting. He has Summoning Sickness, which is why she didn't just take the 6/5 and do something with him. She's blasting me, I'm frozen, which I find kind of funny. So I wasn't exactly going to attack her anyway. But now I've got a Chillwind Yeti, too. Mostly, though, it's all about the second Argus guy. Is drop down the Argus, like my existing Argus guy, he's already spent. He's just a 3/3, so I can use him to kill the Jerk guy. Or I could Wind Fury my Golem, which would attack, die, and then, no, wait, Wind Fury would be stupid then. I can just kill him with the Golem, though, and then I would still have the 2/1. And then I would lose. That's actually something I don't want to do, because I'd lose the Death Rattle, and then if she did a big AoE, it would actually kill all my guys. So basically, I'm just going to have to sacrifice something to kill that guy, unless I want to waste my Storm on him. And he can kill about any one thing I attack with, but Defender of Argus, oh wait, he can change that. Because now my Elemental has 6 toughness, so he could actually just get through. If I Wind Fury him, trade there, now I can do a ton of damage. That is a lot of damage. She's going to be hard-pressed to survive that. Now, it is interesting that pretty much all my, even though all my creature removal is damage-based, none of mine seems to hit the enemy champion. It's not like Consecrate and stuff. So she polymorphs that guy, which makes a lot of sense, because he was a gigantic creature that attacked twice a turn. But I've still got a lot of stuff left. Her guy has 7 toughness, and most of my AoEs don't work on him. I can do 2 or 3 damage with that, though. I could get out a totem first, although then I wouldn't be able to Lightning Storm and Lord of the Arena. I don't think I'd want to put out the Lord at this point anyway. There's no way that I shouldn't be able to just kill her. I just have to put together 7 damage to get rid of that thing, and then it's over. Alright, so there we go. Got my first win with my Shaman deck, and I'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this, please activate the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to Demonac Games for more Hearthstone Arena and Scrolls Judgment videos.